profit estimates. AI company Palantir jumped 27%. Caterpillar rose 5%. Brent crude fell about 4%. Seth Sutel, New York.
More on these stories from townhall.com.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free, no-risk consultation. 800-292-7875. 800-292-7875. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-292-7875.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Can you believe politicians nearly doubled state spending since 2019? Yeah, that's twice the rate of inflation.
What do we get for all that extra spending? Nothing.
Yeah, and get this, over 200 loopholes are buried in our tax code, written by lobbyists for wealthy corporations.
Our tax code is rigged against us.
We get taxed on our paycheck, our home, everything we buy.
I guess somebody's got to pay for all that spending.
That's why we need Amendment 5. It puts politicians on a leash.
Forces them to cut taxes and control spending, whether they like it or not.
Amendment 5 closes the loopholes, eliminates income taxes, cuts property taxes, and gives $3,000 a year to average working families.
We decide, not the politicians.
Amendment 5 is the biggest tax cut in Missouri history.
I'm voting yes on Amendment 5. Paid for by Missouri Promise PAC. Mark Ellinger, Treasurer.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common-sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here, looking for the ultimate escape? Well, welcome to Santino's, where luxury meets authenticity in a stunning 6,000 square foot destination. Browse hundreds of premium cigars in the walk-in humidor. Explore more than 700 bottles of whiskey. Whether it's their non-smoking wine room, gaming lounge with custom poker tables, it's Santino's just off Highway 55 at the Imperial exit. See them at Santino'sCigarCocktails.com. That's Santino'sCigarCocktails.com.
Hunters, we are about 2 months away from turkey season. Are you ready? Hey, it's Mike Ferguson here, and if you stop by and visit my friends at Whistle Pig Outdoors, you will be. Whistle Pig is stocked with decoys from Avian X and DSD, clothing from Banded and First Light, calls from Rolling Thunder and Woodhaven, plus Whistle Pig has those hard-to-find tungsten shells from Apex and Migra. Whistle Pig Outdoors in Troy, Missouri. Just go to whistlepigoutdoors.com.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
Typical summer day around here. It's hot. The high temperature up to about 89 degrees. Partly cloudy skies, becoming a little cloudy at times, but it should be a dry day. Overnight lows near 70 tonight, and then tomorrow we start to cloud up. It will be hot and humid, and we see a chance of showers and thunderstorms in the late afternoon, but especially the evening and overnight. Could even see a couple of strong storms tomorrow night. In the First Alert Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Hello and welcome to Election Day across the state of Missouri. And welcome to Colombo and Company here on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. I am Tony Colombo in studio with producer Johnny, who is also my producer every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. on the Bluff City Outdoors Show. He's been filling in for Ashlyn this week, as Ashlyn's been filling in for Ken and helping out Vic. And it's been a busy week here at the station. It's been a busy week with the news cycle. It's been a busy week for everyone. And these elections are finally upon us today. I hope you got a chance to get out and vote. If not, you have till 7 p.m. across the state of Missouri to get in line. As long as you're in line by 7 p.m., you'll get a chance to vote. And you need to get out there and make your voice heard, because there are some massively important things on the ballot this afternoon, as we have talked about, for weeks now. And we're going to continue that conversation this afternoon and get you ready for our live election night coverage tonight. After a abbreviated edition of Larry Connor's USA, we're going to take back over from Larry at 7 p.m. this evening. And from 7 till 10, or whenever we need to be here till, as we get all of the important information, we will be here live in studio with up-to-the-minute election results. All this coverage, thanks in part to our sponsors, Freddie's Market, Gemini Wealth Group, Fast Signs of Bridgeton, and 21 Recycling and Imperial. Big, huge thank you to our sponsors for supporting us, supporting the station, but also, helping to get out the word and this important broadcast on this massively important election night. We're going to be checking in this evening with just about everybody here on the station. Mike Ferguson, Jamie Allman, Chris Arps, Tim Jones, who's on vacation. He's going to be checking in. He's going to be monitoring all of the election results as they come in. We're also going to talk with folks that are on the ballot, like Travis Wilson, who has an important primary election today. And then, after all of this, we head into the general elections in November. We're also going to talk to our Missouri political insider, Rodney Boyd, this evening as part of our coverage. I'll be here the entire night, bringing you all the results along with Vic Porcelli, who, I don't know, it's the Italian connection. We've kind of... Vic and I have kind of become the default election coverage team, which is absolutely awesome. But it's so much more than just Vic and I. As I said, just about everybody from the station is going to be chiming in tonight as they monitor the situation, as they monitor the results as they come in, and help us, unpack the results and the information and the decisions that are made by voters across the St. Louis area and across the state of Missouri today. Been getting reports from, just various friends and family that have voted today that turnout is busier, not packed or anything like that, which it's still a primary election. And unfortunately, a primary election in a midterm year is always a struggle for voter turnout. But I can remember many years voting in a primary election where, I'll ask the poll workers, hey, has it been busy today? And, oh, no, you're about the 15th person that have been here, and I'm there at lunchtime. I mean, just absolutely pathetic. Or if I'm grabbing the libertarian ballot, they're like, oh, that's the first one of those today. And the polls have been open for hours at that point. So I think there has definitely been more turnout, more energy, more motivation from voters than the typical primary midterm election. Whatever the number ends up being, it's not going to be enough. But hopefully it's a step in the right direction. And it's going to be extremely interesting to see how it goes. If this is your first time or if it's been a while since you voted in a primary election, they will ask you what type of ballot you want. You can select Republican, you can select Democrat, you can select Libertarian, you can select nonpartisan. However, nonpartisan, I was talking to some people who thought that a nonpartisan ballot meant that you would see everything. Like, I'm not taking either side, so I want to see all the races. It's exactly the opposite. You won't see any of the races. You will only see the statewide initiatives and the amendments if you select a nonpartisan ballot. You will not see any of the primary races. So, for example, if you were in St. Charles County and you select a nonpartisan ballot, you would not see the St. Charles County executive Republican primary. It would not be on your ballot. If you were in, St. Louis City or County and you selected a nonpartisan ballot, you would not see the Wesley Bell, Cori Bush race. You have to select a Democrat ballot to see that race, which is, interesting and definitely one of the factors that plays into a primary election when you're selecting your ballot. So the poll workers at my spot, my ballot, my voting area were great. I heard them explaining that to multiple people as they were asking, selecting what ballot they were wanting, and people were asking what that means and what is a nonpartisan, and they were doing a really good job of making sure that people were getting the ballot that they truly wanted, and not going and sitting down with a ballot and thinking that you're going to be voting on some of these races, including the amendments and things like that, of course, but then not seeing them on your ballot. So make sure you make that distinction. They'll ask you, and I'm sure that it's not just my place, the poll workers, by and large. I used to, back in the old days at the old place, my original job on election days was to travel around to various election locations across the St. Louis area. If it was a general election, a presidential election, we'd hit spots in Illinois as well, all over the place. And in my dealings with, whether it be, Illinois, St. Louis County, St. Louis City, Jefferson County, St. Charles County, the poll workers, by and large, been extremely helpful and good over the years that I've experienced, at least. So that's one thing that I think Missouri does fairly well. Not perfect, but fairly well. And, of course, we've heard a lot about voter turnout in the early voting. It's a conversation we've had with multiple folks leading up to today about the strong turnout when it comes to early voting. So that could also be an indicator of some of the numbers that we are going to see tonight and some of the percentages when it comes to voter turnout and participation and things like that. So a lot is on the line, especially when we're talking about these statewide amendments. Amendment 4, as you know, to me is the most important thing. Voting yes on 4, stopping special interests from controlling the Missouri Constitution, stopping special interests from just year after year putting multiple amendments into the Constitution. State of Missouri has 129 amendments at this point. That number will grow beyond 200, maybe even beyond 300 in our lifetime if we don't put a stop to this ridiculous system and allow these special interests to continually bypass the legislative process. Yes on 4 stops a lot of that. IP reform has been something that I've been screaming about for years. It supposedly was the top priority of many Republicans in Jeff City for years. However, because the special interests are so powerful and so well funded, and not all special interests are bad, So, there are special interests that represent gun rights. But still, we don't need to have these organizations able to manipulate the Missouri Constitution the way that they have for years. So, yes on 4. The income tax situation, Amendment 5, I completely understand and agree with the concern about building the next part of that if we eliminate income tax. But I sure would like to eliminate income tax. I sure would like to have a say in the taxes that I pay more than I do now. Right now, it's just taken out before you even get a chance to look at it, before you even get a chance to see it. The money's gone. And as we've talked with our Missouri political insider, Rodney Boyd, many times over the last few weeks, the current system is just not feasible to a positive future. A change needs to be made. And maybe you don't think this is the right change. Again, nothing's perfect. But I certainly think a yes on 5 is better than the alternative. But if you're going to listen to me on one or the other, yes on 4. All of these, obviously, just my strong opinion. But I find these issues to be just massively important. So above all else, make sure that you get out and vote today. Again, polls close at 7 p.m. You can go to our website, newstalkstl.com. If you still are looking, if you're not sure where to vote, and you can still take a look at your sample ballot. I heard a lot of folks, actually, the poll workers at my place today were talking to somebody in a line about how she always prints out a sample ballot and reads over it at home before she goes to make her vote. And, if she reads the ballot, and then if she has any questions about I don't know if this makes total sense to me, or I want some more information on this, she does that, her own research on those issues before heading to the ballot box. I think that's a very smart way to go. And you can still go to our website, newstalkstl.com. You can print out your sample ballot no matter where you're at in the St. Louis area. You can select various county ballots or put in your address and get make sure you get the exact ballot that you're going to get. You can also get the address to your polling place. Mine moved, which I didn't know. Luckily, it only moved like a 1/10 of a mile down the road. But I pulled into the wrong church this morning. I pulled in, and somebody else pulled in right at the same time I did, and both of us were busting U's on different sides of the parking lot and heading back out on the street and back to the new place to vote. So I made that mistake today of not just assuming I knew where to go to vote. So if you have any of those questions, you can get all that information on our website, newstalkstl.com. All right, we're going to go through a very busy day today. We're going to touch on a lot of these issues and continue to talk about the elections today. As I said, we're going to be here. I'll be back here again, along with Vic Porcelli and just about everybody else on the station. As I said, we're checking in with everybody tonight as we go through our live election coverage starting at 7 p.m. So we'll really dig into the issues. We'll also keep an eye on some of the big issues happening in other states around the country, especially, early as we're waiting for these numbers to come in Missouri. We're going to monitor what's going on around the rest of the country as well, as there are several states, including Missouri, that have big primary elections happening today. So, we don't want to miss that, and we will be here for all of that for you as we go through the evening. As we go through this afternoon, before we hand things off to the Tim Jones and Chris Harp Show at 4 o'clock, It's Tuesday, which means we're going to talk AI with Mike McCleary from Intervine. There's a Senate hearing regarding AI. Surveillance pricing using AI. Senators have a lot to learn, I think, and unpack when it comes to this. And is it ethical? Is it right? What is it? And I talk about these stories and more when it comes to big tech and AI issues in the 3 o'clock hour. We're also going to talk to the co-host of Mike Ferguson in the morning, the great Susie Moore. She'll be with us in the 3 o'clock hour as well. And we are going to continue the conversation about these local issues, this election, and some law enforcement stuff, like the training center that has been discussed about being built in Jefferson County. Flock cameras, and that issue has been a really important one. So we're going to continue the conversation with our good friend, Sheriff Dave Marshak, the Sheriff of Jefferson County, joins us to continue the conversation next here on Columbo and Company.
I think we should be able to have a civil conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
Oh, yeah, that is me telling you about Gutter Pros. Gutter Pros, of course, is the best team when it comes to protecting your gutters. Duh, at your home or business. They're called the Gutter Pros. But they do so much more than that. Siding, fascia, soffit, they do it all at Gutter Pros. And we've been through kind of a wacky storm season here in the St. Louis area this year. We've had our fair share of severe weather, as we do every year in the St. Louis area. But, this has been really spotty. It could be a situation where, you're getting dumped on and have a river flowing down your street, flash flooding situations, and a mile away, you're talking to somebody on the phone and, they don't even have a cloud in the sky. It's been a really weird year for that kind of spotty, goofy weather. And if you got hit by any of this and you think you have a problem at your home or business regarding your gutters, regarding your siding, regarding the fascia, soffit at your home or business, call the Gutter Pros. Have them come out. We've had Gutter Pros at our house multiple times over the years. They saved us from a big one. You've heard me tell the story before. When we bought our new house a few years ago, we inherited a gutter problem. A big tree branch had fallen on the house. Well, the previous owners had it and dented the gutters, and they weren't draining right. And every time it rained, they were overflowing, and the overflow was happening right in front of a basement window, and it was pooling up, and it was only a matter of time before the water was getting in the house. And the Gutter Pros came out. Not only did they take care of it fast and easy, but it was super affordable. The only mistake that was made was by me because I procrastinated forever. And almost waited too long before I called the Gutter Pros and had them come out and take a look and fix the problem. So, again, whether it be leaf protection, gutter repair, new gutter installation, siding repair, new siding installation, fascia, soffit, all of the above, the team to call is Gutter Pros. Learn more and call them now just by visiting the website, gutterpros.com.
It's not pleasant to hear it, but Missouri is falling behind in its spending of state tax dollars, education, and health care. But there are ways to get Missouri moving forward again and produce a better life for all of us. That's why we at the Show Me Institute put together our 2026 Missouri Blueprint, a roadmap on how the state can move to a brighter future. The blueprint covers policy ideas from taxes to government transparency, from education to healthcare and budget reform. Let's allow students to attend the school of their choice. Let's adopt new proven methods to help the many school kids who can barely read. Let's limit state spending growth for Missouri's long-term financial stability. And let's invest in future needs with more nuclear energy. Why not common sense reforms to make things better for all Missourians? Check out our 2026 Missouri Blueprint, moving Missouri forward at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Looking for insurance you can truly trust? Since 1986, Bauer Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses across Missouri and Illinois. Owner Cindy Blanton doesn't just offer one quote. She shops all the top carriers like Progressive, Travelers, Safeco, and more to find you the best rates. Whether it's your home, auto, toys, or business, we've got you covered. Visit us at Mid-Rivers Mall in St. Peters or call 636-812-2001. Bauer Insurance Agency, the company that protects. The name you can trust.
Producer Joey V of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here, reminding you, don't waste a buck on movies that suck. Listen to Joey V's Movies Fridays at 5:45 for reviews you can trust. Brought to you by Harry J. Steakhouse, Freddy's Market, AAA Motor Speedway, and Best Buy Flooring.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
With Larry Connors USA, you get news, analysis, opinion, and education.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
Well done. Well done, producer Johnny. Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.994.1 News Talk STL. On this busy election day, as I mentioned, joining us now on the line is our good friend, the Sheriff of Jefferson County. How about that one, Sheriff?
That's right. Your producer went old school.
He did.
Bad boys. I love it. I love it.
I had no idea. And as soon as it started, I was like, oh, yeah, that's good. That's good. That's well
awesome.
done. Sheriff Dave Marshak.
You guys doing all right? Election day. Solid election day. Hope you guys are doing well, keeping up with all the latest and greatest.
Oh, man, there's so much important stuff on the line. This is, voter turnout's always a problem. It's always a concern, period. Then you have a midterm year where there's, not a presidential election, so that kind of slows things down. Now we're also talking about a primary election, which also, will cut into voter turnout. But with all that in mind, Sheriff, there's a lot of crucial things on the ballot today, and I hope that we've been talking about it, beating it, to death, because I do think it's so important over the last several weeks here. But what do you think? Has that message and that importance gotten out to the voters?
For sure. I think I was on the phone earlier with our election authority just about 20 minutes ago talking about turnout. Expected to be a little bit higher, probably the low 30s. So believe it or not, for an August election, that's pretty significant. And I think that's primarily been driven by some of these constitutional amendments. Speaking to, by the way, I'm here at a poll right now working for a candidate I support. But talking to a lot of the voters here and asking questions, a lot of them were driven to the polls for some of these constitutional amendments. And so they wanted their voice heard and they wanted to weigh in. Obviously, your consistent voters always make it out in an August primary, but we're seeing some increases. And then locally in Jefferson County, by the way, this is not a Democrat stronghold and it hasn't been for 14 or 16 years. Democrats are kind of really putting a push on in our county, and I haven't seen in a long time.
Really? Tell me about that a little bit, because, that's been one of the concerns when we talk about other counties in the area, St. Charles County especially, with this past, speaking of off-season elections, when we had the April elections earlier this year, and there was a lot of school boards on the line. Not a single conservative school board member won an election in all of St. Charles County, and there's been a real concern about, these fairly conservative, libertarian strongholds around the St. Louis area are kind of being invaded. Tell me about what's going on there in Jefferson County.
Listen, there is a libertarian candidate here working hard, preparing for the November election. Their platform typically and historically hasn't resonated very well with the voting bloc down here. And I don't think to this point, I don't think it's really resonating down here with this group. But nonetheless, they feel the motivation to get out and to be part of the process. So, I encourage people that are passionate and speaking from a conservative perspective, fellow conservatives, to make your voice count and to make your voice heard. It's important in this election cycle and all the others.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But listen, I'm seeing, look, if you would have told me at a polling location, and I've worked a lot of different polling locations for the last 25 years, I've been involved in some type of election race. I will tell you that I've never seen this many candidates pitch a tent, and be willing to talk to voters outside of a polling place. So that's, I don't know what's driving them, but I've seen much greater participation this time around than I have in the past.
Where do you think that motivation on the left is coming from in a place like Jefferson County? Like I said, it's very similar to what St. Charles and other counties are dealing with.
Well,
what's
I would
happening
say specifically to the I-55 corridor, right? Like there's a lot of people migrating from St. Louis County into Jefferson County because it's a great place to live. Number one, it's safe. Number two, lower taxes. Number three, they have a great sheriff. But all kidding aside, it's a great community. What we're seeing is some of that migration south, and I think that's what it is. The other thing I will tell you specifically is this area around Festus has been really kind of riled up over the data center issue. And in some ways, it's become a kind of partisan. The Democrats are against the data centers. A lot of Republicans are for it, as long as it's not in their backyard. And I think that's motivated a large portion of that community to be engaged where historically they haven't been. And that's an important enough issue where they're asking candidates, where do you stand on this particular issue? And that's motivated a section of Democrats that I haven't seen motivated in a long time.
That's a really interesting one. In about an hour from now, a little less than an hour from now, we're going to talk to our AI expert, Mike McCleary from Intervine, local business owner here. That's a wealth of information and somebody who uses AI at a very high level in marketing and things like that. So somebody who really knows what they're talking about. And we talk to him every Tuesday. It's a regular conversation because I think the AI conversation is really important because it's going to be a part of every aspect of our lives more and more moving forward. So it's important to understand it. You don't have to like it, but you got to understand it so you're not
100%. And let me tell you, you and I kind of talked about this for a moment. The AI incorporation into law enforcement, number one, AI is changing things for all of us. And what you have now is not what you're going to have 6 months from now. That's how fast this technology is moving. If you historically, AI, the capacity in terms of what we're going to gain in technology advances in the next 3 will surpass the previous 10. That's how fast this technology is moving. I see it from a law enforcement perspective. Every couple of months, there's new technology coming out or existing technology enhances their capabilities. And a little of it's scary. It's amazing. So, on so many different fronts, it's changing us.
Yeah, and we're talking to Sheriff David Marshak from Jefferson County. And the important thing to remember is there are certainly major concerns when it comes to AI. There's major dangers when it comes to AI, and we need to not let other people make those decisions about guidelines and how it works and identifying when something's AI. We need to lead the way when it comes to that sort of stuff. And we also need to recognize that it is here to stay. And along with those concerns that we have, there's lots of great tools. There are still things within AI, many things within AI that can help with life, with, I would imagine, law enforcement. I mean, how much are you or law enforcement around the state of Missouri looking into and trying to use AI tools to your benefit? Instead of having the conversation about the negativity of AI.
It's a careful balance.
Oh,
I have to say
big
that
time.
because
Big time.
you have constitutional protections. We have to protect your privacy, and at the same time, we have to protect public safety. And there has to be a balance to do both. The danger area for law enforcement is trying to figure out what that balance is. And I will tell you, the technology that is becoming available to law enforcement is next level stuff that you had to think about. I don't even know if you could use your imagination a few years ago and think about some of the things that are happening.
I know.
But I approach it cautiously because, as I shared, it's moving fast. And what's happening is in law enforcement, platforms are sharing information back and forth to help law enforcement identify criminals, give them leads to help identify suspects in crimes, and that technology is amazing, but also something we should be paying attention to. And it's just trying to figure out that balance with what's out there.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's so important that we not ignore the conversation and that we have the conversations, even if they are awkward and even if they are scary at sometimes. If we don't stay in the lead, if we don't stay at the forefront of the conversation of AI development, places like China will, or others will, and we don't need that.
That's right.
Go ahead.
That's right. That's 100%, Tony. I mean, the reality is, if you want to talk it from an economic perspective and global security, we have to have data centers. We have to invest in AI technology. But just like everything, too much of a good thing can be a problem. We have to have audits. We have to have checks and balances. We have to have safety measures in place. You saw a couple of the AI platforms. I think Anthropic and OpenAI had rogue systems that went out and hacked other systems.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some real concerns out there too. But no, I'm excited about some of the technology, but from a constitutional sheriff perspective, we have to find that balance.
How big is that AI or the data center conversation going to be? You said people are already discussing it on this, during this election season, on today's election day. You kind of you highlighted the split and the narrative there and how it generally is starting to fall along party lines. What a surprise that an issue in America would fall along party lines. But as we move forward, I mean, I am somebody who holds the belief of they're going to get built. The data centers are going to get built. AI is going to continue to evolve. I'd rather have them in my area and have some control over that process and that evolution and take advantage of some of the positives of those things, like the jobs that it can provide, while certainly acknowledging all of the concerns. Nobody wants them in their backyard. Nobody wants to uproot, a shopping center or a subdivision or anything like that, and I would never be in favor of something like that. But the idea of just out and out saying, nope, not having a conversation about data centers, I think that can be dangerous. They don't belong everywhere, certainly, but I think that I'd rather them be, if they're going to be built, I'd rather them be here and built by local people than elsewhere.
I think there's a lot of arguments. I mean, the data center that's going in over in Montgomery County is going to generate something. By the way, I think the school district has a budget of like $18 million. And it's projected they're going to have a $120 million school budget. I mean, I think there's going to be a historic investment in some of those communities. I think because of so much proprietary information on some of the technology between Google and Meta, that they don't release their complete capabilities in terms of what they're doing. And I think some of that secrecy really concerns people because, we've become accustomed to not really trusting our government, and we should have a healthy disrespect for government where we need to ask those questions. But I think because of proprietary information, at least my understanding from the conversations I've had, is they're not really open in terms of what they can do and how they keep these things cool. And I think that leaves a lot open to debate. I think they're going to continue to happen. But I think once the money starts flowing into some of these communities, I think their perspective will change a little bit.
In general, in our area, just got a couple minutes left here with Sheriff Dave Marshak from Jefferson County. In general, like the law enforcement conversation, thank goodness we are a little bit removed from the days of having to talk to you about defund the police and some of these other ridiculous things. But obviously, law enforcement issues are always going to be under the spotlight, and that's highlighted on an election day like today. What are the biggest issues facing law enforcement agencies across the country, and more specifically here locally? Obviously, the body camera issue is always a top issue. What are some of the other? Go ahead.
Let me tell you, this election cycle, it started coming up. We're going to be having more of these conversations. Everybody wants to know about the flock camera.
Oh yeah,
government surveillance at its finest. And I want to tell you a couple of real quick things about this. You and I need to have a separate conversation.
And we will.
Our audience would love to hear about flock cameras because they're seeing these articles pop up online left and right. Many of them are inaccurate or they're not complete. I would love to spend a little time talking about it, but let me share this with you, Tony. this conversation on Flock is nothing compared to what's happening in 3 years. And it'll make our Flock conversation look like some archaic crap in the past, because these body cameras, the information that they are collecting, I call them walking surveillance platforms, on a regular police officer walking through a crowd or through a community, the type of information that it's capturing, sharing across multiple platforms, the future is coming. And let me tell you something, the Flock camera is nothing compared to some of these walking surveillance platforms. I would love to dive into that deeper, but that's what we need to. I want to have the Flock conversation because I know your listeners are curious about it. Let's spend a little time jumping into it because we need to pay attention. Just because government can have something doesn't mean they should use it.
I think it all falls under the same umbrella, and we will definitely have that conversation, and we'll make time for it, where we have, we can really get into the weeds on this issue, and we'll do it very soon, Sheriff, because I think it is massively important, because as much of and some people are surprised because I'm such a libertarian and I'm such a, personal freedoms person. I am not against the idea of body cameras or even public cameras to a very limited and regulated extent when it comes to law enforcement transparency. But what is happening, and I think this is what you were kind of touching on, and we'll dig into, in a very soon future conversation, the idea of spying and data selling. And there's a Senate hearing going on right now that we're going to talk to Mike McCleary about in the 3 o'clock hour regarding AI surveillance advertising, where they, your phone is reporting back all of your movements, and how you, and that is, that's where I absolutely draw the line, because, you don't necessarily have the right to privacy when you're out in public. So I don't mind a security camera that is there for safety purposes and, like I said, very limited and regulated instances. Certainly in my home or in my business or my vehicle or anything, that is my private space, and that's a completely different story. But unfortunately, that's just not what's happening. It's the tracking of people and the spying and the data selling that is completely unacceptable.
That's right. Your local government has nothing on what a marketing company is capturing from you, either through your interconnectivity with your Apple CarPlay apps that you're using. They're all collecting data, and that is specifically designed to influence you later, whether it's through the voting process or through marketing campaigns for you to purchase different items. We don't care where you've been unless you commit a crime, and there's a distinct difference because we have checks and balances and audits. I'm much more concerned for some of the other things that are going out there that have unchecked. It's kind of the wild. I was with the Stanford computer science professor a few years ago, and I asked him what the biggest threat to us would be. What's the biggest risk? And he said, it's the Wild West. There's no rules for the amount of data and information you can collect, and that's dangerous.
Yeah, it is. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations and to make people aware of what's happening out there so we can make decisions to protect ourselves moving forward. And we will definitely have a long conversation and really unpack this issue. Yeah, very, very soon. Sheriff Dave Marshak, thanks for checking in on this very busy election day. Good luck out there at the polls, and look forward to talking to you again soon, my friend. Have a great rest of your day. Yeah, great stuff there. The Sheriff of Jefferson County, Sheriff Dave Marshak. All right, we're going to get into that deeper AI conversation. I want to bring up some of the things that the Sheriff just touched on when we talked to Mike McCleary in the 3 o'clock hour. Also, in just about 15 minutes, we're going to talk to Susie Moore, co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning. Of course, Susie Moore from Red State, redstate.com as well. Before we get there, let's touch on some of the national stories of the day, including the latest coming out of Iran and some of the national reporting on the Missouri elections that is happening out there today. It's election day across the state of Missouri, and we have got you covered here on Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
touching on some of those issues right there, I will always be somebody that is invested in and supportive of and trying to endorse and encourage local business owners, local small businesses that hopefully grow into big businesses that can help us out in so many areas of our lives. And a perfect example of that is the team at Grasser Home Services, local team that has been handling your electrical problems and projects for a very, very long time. Also now can cover all of your plumbing needs. Grasser Home Services specializes in all electrical needs, ranging from large-scale commercial projects all the way down to simple home service needs like replacing a bad light switch, now as well as all of your plumbing needs, from fixture and pipe repairs and replacements, including garbage disposal, sump pumps, and water softeners. They do it all at Grasser Home Services. We have had Grasser in our home multiple times. When we bought our home a few years ago, we were doing some of that transitioning from, the house that was the home to the people that owned it before, to making it our home and changing light fixtures and moving some things around, some sockets and things like that. And we've had Grasser in our home for that. We've had Grasser in our home for, issues that we've had over the years. And I can tell you from all that experience that there is just nobody better when it comes to customer service, when it comes to professionalism, when it comes to the quality of work, when it comes to the affordability of the team at Grasser Home Services, a local family-owned business that is just at the top of their game. So they also offer free quotes for new projects. So if you have an electrical problem or plumbing problem or just need a quote for new work, contact Grasser now by going to callgrasser.com.
Hello, Kirk Hilsinger, Chairman of the Republican Party, City of St. Louis. We are urging everyone to get out and vote this August primary. We need your vote every election. We remind you to vote yes on Amendment 4. Stop out-of-town money from being used to bypass your elected state legislators. And vote yes on Amendment 5. Tell businesses fleeing high-tax states like Illinois that Missouri is open for business and help lower our income and personal property taxes. Help us fight democratic socialism in its backyard by visiting stl-gop.com and donate, come to a meeting, or volunteer to help out.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
In Missouri, your home works hard to keep up with the weather. Johnson Heating and Cooling works harder. We're a local family-owned company specializing in residential heating and cooling, service, repair, replacement, maintenance, even new construction. Our NATE-certified technicians and trained comfort specialists keep families comfortable across Wentzville, O'Fallon, St. Charles, and beyond. Call 636-332-4141 or johnson-heatingandcooling.com.
Calling all Patriots. Join the St. Louis County Republicans for the annual Lincoln Reagan Day Dinner, Saturday, September 19th at River City Casino. Our keynote speaker, Newsmax personality, Rob Carson. Enjoy a full night of fun and information alongside state and local officials and candidates. It's an evening you won't want to miss. Dinner and program, just $75. For tickets, email reneeartman@hotmail.com or call 314-398-6667.
Psst. Want to hear the best kept secret in St. Louis? Staff's Pizza. We're not afraid to compare squares. According to our customers, we have the best St. Louis style pizza anywhere. And we can't disagree. Dine in, pick up, or delivery in St. Peters, St. Charles, Lake St. Louis on Fort Trail, and the original Stefanitas in O'Fallon on Veterans Memorial Parkway. Check us out at steffspizza.com. Steff's Pizza. We're not afraid to compare squares.
Hey everyone, this is Jesse from Reach Reproductive Health, and I need you to mark your calendar because on October 22nd, it's going to be a big night in St. Louis. It's going to be our second annual Reach Gala, and it's happening at the factory. Incredible live music, powerful speakers, a night to celebrate life, and to support the Reach mission. Stay tuned to find out who's taking the stage. I promise you won't want to miss it. Registration is open right now at outreachforlife.org/gala.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com. Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL.
back to Colombo and Company. Faith No More. That's good. Welcome back. You're listening to Colombo and Company with producer Johnny in studio, filling in for Ashlyn this week, as she's been filling in for Ken Williams on the Vic Porcelli Show. Speaking of Vic Porcelli, he's going to be with me tonight for our special election coverage, 7 to 10 p.m. or 7 to however long it takes to get all of the important results in. You know, we'll stay here if it appears that we're going to, get some answers to important elections, local elections, and it's 10 o'clock. We'll stick around to make sure that we get you those issues, but I don't think it's going to be, I don't know. I know that, I know election results and getting them in have been a major issue across the country in recent elections, but other than a few hiccups here and there, in recent elections with a county, or a particular area, the state of Missouri has done a really good job at getting election results out pretty quickly and in a timely fashion. So I'm thinking that tonight, between those hours of 7 and 10 p.m., we should have a lot of answers about the various races, congressional races, county executive races, and, of course, on the big issues like Amendments 4 and 5 and some of the other things. So it's going to be a busy night, and we're going to be here for you all evening long, live with special election coverage. Vic and I will be in studio together, and we'll be checking in with just about everybody, all of the whole team here at News Talk STL, as well as folks like Missouri political insider Rodney Boyd, Travis Wilson, who is running for state rep on the ballot today there in St. Charles. The former Mayor of Ferguson, Mayor James Knoll, is going to be a part of the broadcast tonight. It's going to be a really jam-packed show, and we're going to keep an eye on all of the important races locally. And Missouri's not the only state that is having some important primaries today. There are other states around the country that are as well, and so we'll be keeping an eye on some of those races as we go through the evening. So make sure you plan on joining us tonight for our special election coverage here on News Talk STL. It's interesting, and I'm very interested to see how this plays out. But I mentioned the national coverage of the Missouri elections, and a lot of that has been focused on Cori Bush and the Democratic primary in the city and county for Congressional District 1, which is that seat that Wesley Bell defeated Cori Bush for 2 years ago in 2024. Cori Bush is attempting to regain her seat in Congress, despite the rant she went on when she lost about how now she's free and doesn't have the restraints that Congress put on her and she can do all this great work now. Apparently she needs to get back in the game to advance her agenda, because so much for that as she is running again. And there's been, and I've mentioned in recent days and read a lot of these articles and these headlines, that are the comeback kid or the comeback attempt, and putting a lot of publicity on this race. And my question is, not being a resident of St. Louis County anymore, not being somebody who works in St. Louis City anymore, after nearly 30 years of working downtown St. Louis every single day, every radio station that I started in radio when I was 19 years old, and every radio station that I worked for until this one, including this one at the beginning, all worked. We're all located downtown St. Louis until we moved out into the county here at News Talk STL just a few years ago. And until just a few years ago, lifetime resident of North County, St. Louis County. So I am very familiar and have been throughout my life of these issues. However, over these last, 3 or 4 years since I've been in St. Charles County and have not been day-to-day impacted by these things, as I guess a bit of an outsider in that regard, I didn't know that there was an appetite for Cori Bush to return to the United States Congress. And I guess we're going to find out. Is this just something that the media is pumping up because they know that she's a bomb thrower and that every time Cori Bush opens her mouth, there's going to be news to report? They're going to have content to post on these media platforms? Because if there's one thing, look, Wesley Bell, I got plenty of disagreements with his politics, but he's not a bomb thrower. And if anything, you might be able to label him as boring because he just does keep his head down so often and doesn't make a bunch of news. And I don't know, as a citizen, as a voter, I think I might like that approach better. I mean, Wesley Bell's not the kind of candidate that I would vote for, obviously. However, if I had the choice between the two, the enemy of my enemy is my friend at some point. So I'm going to be really interested in that race tonight and watching it unfold, along with so many others. Obviously, Amendment 4 being top of the list for me. But that's one of them that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on, and so is the national media, about, has this just kind of been created by the media, this big comeback attempt for the former squad member Cori Bush? Or is this something that voters in St. Louis City and County are actually wanting? Which, geez, if it's not already a lost cause in the city of St. Louis, I can't imagine what would be a better example of maybe that happening now. So we're going to cover all that and more, and we're going to continue the conversation next here with Susie Moore on Colombo and Company.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. We're sitting here with our great friend, Chris Cooper. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, Vic? How are you?
I hear you wrote another book. This one's an e-book. Is that right?
The Business Owner's Playbook for Financial Clarity. So it is a great book for entrepreneurs. It's a very short guide. Give people, business owners, the ability to understand key questions that are important, such as succession planning, legacy planning, getting the IRS out of our pockets, right? Because do you like paying taxes?
I do not.
I don't think anybody likes paying taxes, right? That just makes sense. And then always talking about protection. And then the other thing from a business owner perspective, what is the biggest asset a business owner has? Probably their business itself, right? We need to make sure we understand what the value of that business is as well.
So this new book, I'm sure, is incredibly expensive, right? How much?
No, it's a free resource.
Oh, it's free.
We provide guidance, we provide education, because we want to make sure people feel educated and understanding, because sometimes you don't know what questions to ask, and we need to make sure we help arm people with information to ask the right question.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Travis Wilson here, State Representative from District 106 in St. Charles, Missouri's first state capital. I wanted to remind everyone that we have a crucial primary election coming up on Tuesday, August 4th. No excuse, in-person voting has already begun, and I'd appreciate your vote to continue my service for the great people of St. Charles. For more information on early voting or to learn more about me and the important issues facing Missouri, visit me on Facebook at Wilson for St. Charles. Thank you, and may God continue to bless the state of Missouri.
Paid for by Wilson for St. Charles. Merle Schneider, Treasurer.
Hey, it's Susie Moore for Window World. Did you know that in just over the last 20 years, Window World of St. Louis has improved the look and thermal efficiency for over 80,000 customers in St. Louis? Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now, Window World is offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today at 800-GET-WINDOWS for a free in-home, no-pressure estimate. That's Window World at 800-GET-WINDOWS. They're the preferred window of the St. Louis Blues.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm John Scott. The latest news is positive. Speaking with reporters, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says oil tankers are moving now through the Strait of Hormuz, but the U.S. wants to see a bigger flow.
I think that there's a conversation and negotiation that we are involved in between Oman and Iran on how more ships can be able to go through there safely in the short term as we move towards these longer term talks about denuclearization. And suffice it to say, there's been progress made in those talks, but not finality yet. We're hoping that will happen very shortly.
And in Washington, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that the U.S. could reach a deal with Iran to completely reopen the Strait of Hormuz by August 5th, adding that this would stabilize energy prices. Voters in Michigan heading to the polls for primary elections, including a closely watched Democratic U.S. Senate contest.
Michigan Democrats are choosing between moderate U.S. Representative Haley Stevens and progressive favorite Abdul El Sayed. The winner will face U.S. Representative Mike Rogers in November. Rogers is running unopposed after narrowly losing a Senate race in 2024. Speaking to reporters yesterday, President Trump was asked about today's elections.
You have a communist versus a socialist. It looks like the communist is leading. We're talking about for the Democrat primary. But for the Republican, you have a very good man, and he should be able to win.
I'm Marcela Sanchez.
Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has cleared a critical hurdle in his bid to be confirmed to the post after swaying Republican holdouts on a Senate committee to advance his nomination for a floor vote. The Senate Judiciary Committee voted 12 to 10 along party lines in support of the nomination of President Trump's former personal attorney. More on these stories from townhall.com.
Hi, I'm Kirk Cameron. Christian Healthcare Ministries is not another health insurance policy. If you're tired of year-long contracts and pointless restrictions, CHM offers anytime enrollment on your schedule and at your convenience. With CHM, you're paying half the cost of a traditional health insurance plan. So that puts more money back into your budget for everyday needs. Plus, you'll have access to CHM's care solutions for virtual appointments, prescription savings, surgery support, and more. My family and I joined in 2018, and it's changed our lives for the better. We love paying way less while helping other believers afford their medical bills. Take the leap of faith and see why Christians across the nation are better with CHM.
Get started by calling 1-833-JOIN-CHM and use promo code WELLNESS for a 50% credit towards your first month. That's 1-833-JOIN-CHM and use promo.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
Typical summer day around here. It's hot. The high temperature up to about 89 degrees. Partly cloudy skies, becoming a little cloudy at times, but it should be a dry day. Overnight lows near 70 tonight, and then tomorrow we start to cloud up. It will be hot and humid, and we see a chance of showers and thunderstorms in the late afternoon, but especially the evening and overnight. Could even see a couple of strong storms tomorrow night. In the First Alert Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at SerenityWealthBiz.com. That's SerenityWealthBiz.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. One more hour to go before we hand you off to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show at 4 o'clock. Then don't forget, I'll be back tonight at 7 along with Vic Porcelli for live election coverage here on this really important election day across the state of Missouri. Getting more and more reports from various folks out in the field. My buddy Mike Marfell, co-host of the Bluff City Outdoors Show. Producer Johnny's in studio with me today, speaking of the Bluff City Outdoors Show every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. here on News Talk STL. He said that he had a pretty crowded polling place this morning. So we're hearing a lot of that. You know, it's not like there's long lines. I mean, it's a primary in a midterm year. But I feel like there's definitely more energy, and more engagement than the usually pathetic numbers that we see on an election like this as far as turnout is concerned, which is really good because there's a lot of really important things on the ballot this afternoon. If you haven't voted yet, you still have time. Polls close across the state at 7 p.m. So after work, on your way home, swing by your polling place. Make sure you cast your ballot. All right. We are, in this 3 o'clock hour, going to talk to our AI expert, Mike McCleary. There's a Senate hearing right now regarding AI advertising surveillance. Surveillance? That's a word I've always struggled with, which is not good because that's going to be a major topic in the next segment. So stick around, if for no other reason, to hear me battle the English language. And right now joining us on the line, as she does every Tuesday at this time, to bring some professionalism and decorum and, credibility to this radio program from Red State, redstate.com, Red State Radio, the co-host of Mike Ferguson in the morning, number 8 in your programs, but number 1 in your hearts. Susie Moore is with us. Hello, Susie.
Hey, I didn't know I was going to have to bring decorum to this deal.
Somebody has to, and believe me, it ain't me.
Nobody gave me that memo.
Do you have any words that you struggle with? My wife can't say cinnamon, and I can't say surveillance. Did I just say it? Okay. When I guess when I do say it right, it doesn't feel right, so I always question myself, and then I butcher it. You got any of those words that are like just ones that you just can't do?
Yeah, I mean, I know I do. I just can't think of which ones they are. But there definitely are some that either give me trouble pronouncing, or when I'm spelling them, like invariably I will invert letters or something.
Yeah. I'm famous for spelling something so bad that not even spell check knows what I'm trying to say. And that's bad. I always just think, hey, listen, I'm just going to give it my best shot, and then I'll let spell check clean it up. And then when spell check doesn't, and it gives me like 3 or 4 options that aren't the word that I'm trying to say. It's like, oh, boy, that's a bad one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Surveillance has always been a bad one for me, and my wife always adds an extra syllable at the end of cinnamon. She says cinnamon.
Gotcha.
Cinnamon. So I think we all have them. Have you had I want to get into, obviously we've been focusing a lot on these local elections, and we can touch on some of those things too, but there's some other stories that I want to get into while we're talking to Susie. But have you had a chance to get out to vote? Have you heard from folks in your life about voter turnout? Because what I've been hearing, just unofficially from friends and family that have been out voting, is that there seems to be a busier turnout today than we would normally see in a midterm primary election.
Yeah, I've not been getting reports back from anyone. I haven't really talked to that many people outside of there at the station when I was there for the morning show and that sort of thing. And I was planning to stop on my way back home from there, and I ran out of time to do that. So I'm going to be stuck going this evening, when everyone's getting off work. So it'll probably be a little bit of a longer wait for me, but shouldn't be too bad.
It'll be interesting to see how that goes because, I was pleasantly surprised to see, just kind of a busy polling place. It certainly wasn't like there was a line or anything. But mine is it always is, really well staffed. There's, a bunch of people working. There's a whole bunch of places, they have a bunch of voting booths set up so they can accommodate, a couple dozen people all at once. And
sure.
It certainly wasn't that case, but there was a handful of people voting and streaming in when I was coming in, and there was a handful coming in as I was leaving. So, it did seem at least a bit consistent. I want to remind folks one more time, too. I mentioned this at the top of the show. But because so many people don't participate in primary elections so often, to remember that they're going to ask you what type of ballot you want: Republican, Democrat, Libertarian. I'll tell you what, the faces that I have gotten over the years when I've asked for the Libertarian ballot.
It's like, oh.
I didn't do that today because there were races that I wanted to vote in, primaries in St. Charles County that I wanted to participate in, which you can't if you select. So I didn't do that today, but I have done that many, many times, and will continue to do so. You know me. I'm one of those crazies. But it's important to remember, and because I think a lot of people, I touched on this earlier, you have the option for nonpartisan, and I think some people think nonpartisan means I get to vote on everything, and it's exactly the opposite. You you vote on nothing except for limited. The amendments.
The amendments, right?
Yeah,
the resolutions, the bond measures, that sort of thing.
Exactly. So, and as I said earlier, the folks at my polling place, and I think most polling places around, do a really good job of explaining that to people. I heard, our people were explaining that to almost everybody that came in. That we're asking, like, whoa, what do you mean? What's nonpartisan? But, just something to remember in a primary election.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, because I'm sure that's an easy way for people to get confused. My suspicion is that there aren't a ton of Libertarian Party election volunteers or judges. So that means when you ask for that, or Green Party, any of the non big two parties, the people that are there working are like, oh, this is out of the ordinary.
Yeah, it is. It very much is. I remember asking somebody. I was like voting at lunchtime in an election in my old house and in St. Louis County, and I asked for the Libertarian ballot, and they looked at each other like, oh, like.
Right.
How about that?
That skunk.
And I said, "Have you gotten any of those today?" And the lady was like, "I think I had one. I think I had one." It's like I was the second Libertarian voter in St. Louis County at noon. So
that's okay.
Yeah, there you go. Talking to Susie Moore from RedState.com, of course, the co-host Mike Ferguson in the morning, every weekday morning here on News Talk STL. I want to touch on some of the other big issues, national stories that are happening, including the continued fallout from Anthony Fauci last week. You're a legal expert. Have you ever seen anything quite like the performance we saw with the 111 times pleading the fifth and the lawyer trying to get involved? Just from somebody who kind of knows what's going on, a little bit more than the average person watching something like that. What was your sort of just reaction to that whole circus?
So I think what catches people's attention is the fact that there were, that he did it 111 times. But that's actually what you would expect if someone is going to invoke the fifth, and the questioners are not going to stipulate that they can just invoke it, as to all. They're going to put them through the paces and ask each of the questions. You basically have to do it that way if you don't want to run the risk of waiving the privilege in some way. Now, I think that Fauci probably put himself at risk by making his statement ahead of invoking it. I think he may have arguably opened the door there, setting aside the whole issue about whether or not the pardon makes it improper for him to have invoked it to begin with. So, we knew it was going to be a circus-type atmosphere anyway. It's a congressional hearing. That's kind of the order of the day.
Yeah.
The lawyer trying to jump in was a little odd, and as somebody's attorney, there may be times when you do need to break in and make a statement for the record. But it seemed like this guy was trying to do a little bit more than that, and he got escorted out of the room for his trouble.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to watch the from a legal beagle nerd perspective, to watch how that all unfolds, because there's a couple of different legal issues raised there, and they're not necessarily ones that have clear-cut answers or that have been highly litigated.
So that's exactly what I wanted to ask you about, because, as we've all reacted to this, and as the outcry has been from many people to not let Fauci get away with this and to force some accountability or at least some answers from him. Ideas like you just touched on, the idea of, because of the pardon, you aren't granted the same type of Fifth Amendment right as another person might when they're on trial. There's also been the idea of a contempt of Congress route for folks. Can you kind of explain that Fifth Amendment one a little bit? And also, what do you just think about the chances of there being a viable next step for people that still want to try to pin Fauci down to some answers and some accountability?
Sure. So, we have the Fifth Amendment right. It's ensured by the Bill of Rights. It's not granted to us. It's part of what we, have secured and basically set up the Constitution to preserve and protect. You have that right. But the point is, you have it to avoid, potentially incriminating yourself, putting yourself in criminal legal jeopardy. If you've already been granted a pardon, in theory, you are no longer in criminal legal jeopardy or at risk of it, and therefore there's no basis on which to invoke it. Now, there are some issues there. First and foremost, and the one that stands out the most to me, is that pardon is good for federal criminal charges.
Yeah.
It doesn't apply to potential state criminal charges. And we've already seen Florida and Louisiana, and I think maybe even Missouri, hint at perhaps pursuing criminal action against Anthony Fauci at the state level. Well, he's not pardoned for that. So he's going to turn around and argue, well, look, they're coming after me at the state level, so I had every right to stand on my Fifth Amendment right. And he may have the better argument there. But the other thing, now I forgot what the other part of the question was.
Contempt of Congress. Contempt of Congress. Is that a legitimate path forward in your opinion?
It could be because he was under obligation to testify. He proceeded to give his little opening screed where he was basically saying, "Poor me, Rand Paul's mean to me. I've always cooperated with Congress." So I think there's an argument that he perhaps waived his right by making those statements, and then the fact that it's questionable. I mean, certainly he's not in potential legal jeopardy for anything related to federal criminal charges for anything up to the point of his pardon between 2014 and that pardon. So there's an argument that he shouldn't have invoked the Fifth as to any questions related to that time frame with regard to potential federal, criminal jeopardy. So it's going to be really fascinating to see how that all plays out. It's going to end up in courts. The question is which courts. Presumably the D.C. court, district court is where it will start out. I don't know who it'll end up in front of. With our luck, it'll be Jeb Boasberg. So, just to make it even more of a circus.
This guy, he always finds a way into the conversation.
He sure does. Yeah.
Everything funnels through Judge Boasberg's court. One of the other things, and this is a couple days old, and something that I just haven't had a chance to talk about yet, and a perfect day to talk about it with Susie on the line. Another proposal that I saw put forward by Republicans was a lifetime ban from federal government work under a new bill following his hearing. A House GOP proposal would bar Dr. Anthony Fauci from working for the federal government again after his dramatic hearing on Capitol Hill last week. Fauci appeared before the Senate committee. We all know all that stuff. Invoked the Fifth Amendment over 100 times. And the new bill by Representative Rich McCormick of Georgia would bar him from returning to his old duties and potentially open him to criminal prosecution. The bill, called the Stop the Swamp Act, would bar people from working for the federal government if they refuse to answer certain questions from federal lawmakers or if they are convicted of perjury, according to a release on McCormick's website. Susie, Anthony Fauci is 85 years old and he's worth $15 million. A ban from working for the federal government anymore is literally nothing. I mean, are we grasping at straws with this, or are we setting a precedent?
No, that's symbolic legislation. A, it'll never pass. B, it doesn't have any teeth. It doesn't really have much meaning as far as Anthony Fauci is concerned. And that's a good campaign, talking point. We are approaching the midterms, so I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock in that. I would put more stock in our own Senator Schmidt-Boasberg Act, because at least that is theoretically one that
Yeah, when I saw that headline, Fauci faces lifetime ban, I was like, what?
He's 85.
Am I supposed to be happy about this? 85? And I looked it up according to, various net worth websites, however accurate those are, I don't know. But looks like he's, like, the general consensus is around $15 million is his net worth. Yeah. So 85 years old, he's worth millions. I don't think he needs to worry about his, going back to work for the federal government.
Well, and he's obviously learned his lesson that if he does, everything he says and writes on it's going to be preserved for future scrutiny, which, hello, dummy. I'm sorry. Like, I get that he felt like he would probably want to write a book after, so there was some need to take notes. But if it didn't occur to him at all that doing so on government equipment was going to subject that to later review, then
I think it just goes to show you just how much confidence he had. And just how much, self-importance he had. That he was documenting, true history and becoming one of the most pivotal figures in American history. I think he just really was feeling himself. I mean, when you read some of those diaries.
Quite clear.
Yeah. Exactly. Hey, one more quick one I wanted to touch on because I just find this really interesting. Capitol Hill staffers have a new tool. Did you see this? Do you know where I'm going with this?
I did.
Have a new tool. I think it's an app where there's a way that this app remains anonymous but verified, which, there's always, I'm always a little bit suspicious of those things, but that's what it claims, and I think that this is a good thing. It was created by either a former or current other congressional staffer, and it's basically a way, and I know folks, some folks that are friends of ours and regulars on the radio station, folks like Nate Lucas, who work, for Representative Eric Burleson, and others that we, that have gone, to Washington, D.C. and work for various senators or congresspeople. It's a really unique and chaotic world there. And a lot of these staffers are, you just kind of fighting for your life to get a solid gig and to get your career on track and all of these things. And sometimes you just kind of end up where you end up because, you just got to take the jobs that are available. And as you can imagine, there are some congressmen and senators that are a little bit better to work for than others. And sometimes it can be an absolute nightmare. And there's not really any way for these staffers to really know besides just sort of word of mouth, and conversations on Capitol Hill. So this guy created an app that's called The Scoop, and it was launched on July 20th, so just a couple weeks ago, and it ranks, and it's all the only people that can provide information to this app are verified congressional staffers. So these are people that are actually working in the system. And it ranks like who are the best politicians, national politicians to work for. And just an example here, just a real quick example. So the top 5 congressional offices to work in, 3 of them are Republican and 2 of them are Democrat offices. So, pretty even. When you look at the top 5 worst, when you calculate all of Congress and the United States Senate, the worst offices are all Democratic offices. Eric Schmidt is one of the ones that's on the list of the highest, which I thought was really cool. But, and the names are, a lot of the names on this list are just not like everyday household names, so it's not worth reading them all. But I found it very interesting that, like, at the top, it was pretty split. But at the bottom, the worst people to work for was dominated by the left. Doesn't surprise me,
it was all,
but I think it's cool.
Democrats.
Yeah, I think that's a really good peek behind the curtain at what it's like on Capitol Hill. What do you make of all that?
Well, we live in the conservative ecosphere, media ecosphere. I do. So the anecdotal stuff I hear tends to favor the conservative side of things, the Republican side of things, but that is consistent with, whispers I've heard along the way and over the years. So I don't it wasn't terribly surprising to me that Chris Van Hollen was on the lower down list.
Yeah,
he
Chris Van Hollen.
He'd be a pain to work with,
Yeah.
And it doesn't surprise me that Senator Schmidt's on one of the better ones. That's consistent with what I know, what my experience has been. I think it's a good idea to have that, maybe it will encourage some additional accountability because there's workplace environment things that they can do that's not like a breach of ethics or, illegal or whatever, but it still makes it not a pleasant place to work. And people need to be aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought this was really interesting. And I like I like those peek behind the curtain kind of things. To get a good idea of the truth of what it's like. And, you look at people on the left, like Chris Van Hollen, who you just mentioned, and you think of names like Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi and Ilhan Omar. I would imagine that these are difficult people to work with. And that doesn't mean that there's no shortage of that on the right either. Certainly.
I'm sure there is.
But, but obviously, these are the people that are living that life every day. And it's pretty one-sided when it comes to who has the favorable rankings and who doesn't. Really interesting stuff. Susie Moore from Red State, redstate.com, Red State Radio, which you can hear every Sunday morning at 4 p.m. here on News Talk STL, and, of course, every weekday morning with Mike Ferguson as part of Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL. Great conversation. Great stuff as always, my friend. Really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Tony. You too.
Great stuff there from Susie Moore. All right, as we get ready for our election coverage tonight, 7 to 10 p.m., live up-to-the-minute election results all night here on News Talk STL. Got a little bit more to go here on Cullomo and Company before we hand it off to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show at 4 o'clock. In the 2 o'clock hour, we talked to Sheriff Dave Marshak, the sheriff of Jefferson County, about these elections and some of the big issues coming up, including the big data center issue that is, having an influence on voters all across the area. There's a big announcement about a data center in St. Louis. It's been a big issue on in the conversation when it comes to county executive in St. Charles and some of these other races. We're going to be joined by our big tech AI expert, Mike McCleary from Intervine, to dig into these issues and more next.
This app is absolutely fantastic.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
If you have a phone,
You have a radio.
It is awesome.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
and listen anytime,
Anywhere.
Fox News commentary with Brian Kilmeade next.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Here's Brian Kilmeade.
Anthony Fauci's 1,100-page diary revealed this fraud lied, enriched himself, extended the pain of the pandemic while receiving rock-star treatment from the media and Hollywood for his leadership. He contradicted almost everything he claimed to be true about COVID, all while leading the government's charge of protecting Americans during the pandemic. His diary entry shows he privately confronted other possibilities about the virus's origin, even calling the market just an amplifier. He knew it came from the lab. He publicly denied reasonability for shutting down schools and states. And remember when Fauci told you that if you were fully vaccinated, you didn't have to wear a mask? He admitted in his diary that even vaccinated people were still getting COVID. We knew that. I don't know why I'm surprised, frankly. This is the man that told us to stand 6 feet apart, then told us there was no evidence you should stand 6 feet apart.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson. Mario's Donut Restaurant, that's your place to go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From mouth-watering sandwiches, omelets, delicious gyros, and Mexican dishes, to their revamped menu with cannolis, tiramisu, baklava, and danishes. And don't forget those famous donuts. Dine in or carry out, Mario's friendly staff is ready to serve you with love and care. Mention News Talk STL when you visit, or just visit mariosdonutrestaurant.com.
Connor Roofing, you can count on Connor. Connor Roofing is now a 2-time winner of the National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction for roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. Please visit ConnorRoofing.com for an estimate. And remember, you can count on Connor.
Tonight,
Missouri decides 2026.
all the results and reactions from the Missouri State Primary.
You have to get out and vote.
From the voices you know and trust in St. Louis for election night coverage.
Amendment 4.
Amendment 5. County executives.
Coverage begins tonight at 7 on St. Louis's conservative voice.
Right here.
News Talk STL. Brought to you by Fast Signs in Bridgeton, 21 Recycling in House Springs, Gemini Wealth Group, and Freddy's Market.
Your trees do a lot for you. Shade, beauty, curb appeal, but are they safe? Clever Tree Service has been protecting St. Louis homes and landscapes for over 20 years. Pruning, trimming, removal, stump grinding, even 24/7 emergency storm service. Fully insured, eco-friendly, and always focused on you. From Kirkwood to Chesterfield, Webster Groves to Wildwood, your neighbors trust Clever Tree Service. Visit clevertreeservice.com for your free quote today.
At Body of Health, we're a small but mighty family operation with big ambitions for your health. I'm Helene Tobler, and I'm jazzed about how our MRI-grade body composition analyzer is putting personalized health and wellness on steroids. It helps me and Dr. Tobler, that's my husband, refine the advice we give to help you feel better and live longer. Body of Health, trusted, discerning, affordable health care the way it ought to be. Learn more at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
With Larry Connors USA, you get news, analysis, opinion, and education.
Larry Connors USA.
Now, weeknights 6 until 8.
On News Talk STL. Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Play that urge stuff. Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here in studio with producer Johnny, who's in for Ashlyn this afternoon. And it is Tuesday afternoon. It is election day across the state of Missouri. Make sure you get out and vote today if you haven't already. Polls close at 7 o'clock. And at 7 o'clock, we'll be back here live in studio with you for our election coverage. Myself and Vic Porcelli checking in with several of the folks here at News Talk STL and some of the other folks around the area involved in these elections. We're going to be all over it and bringing you up to the minute election results as we go through the night. So make sure you join us for that. But it is a Tuesday afternoon, election day or not, which means we are going to talk about big tech and AI issues with our AI expert, Mike McCleary from Intervine. And producer Johnny did some editing, some tweaking, and well, that didn't come out right.
Yeah, hold on. In my neck of the woods, that means something else.
To the intro. So hit it.
Step right up. It's time to tune in, 'cause Tony and Mike are about to begin. AI with Mike, so now dim the lights, 'cause we're about to hear from those two fools.
AI is kind of a fancy thing. First of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence.
There you go. How about that?
Oh my God, that is awesome.
Hey, the perfect example of an AI creation added with the skills of a talented human being to make the perfect piece
It goes
of
to
content.
show you can never just let AI do the job.
Exactly.
You always got to come in and clean up something.
Exactly. It's a tool. It's not the one doing the job for you. That was good, Mike.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
What
I
is
think we're
AI
going to
again?
lock that one in there. What's that?
What is AI again?
It's 2 letters. It's 2 letters. AI stands for artificial intelligence.
AI is kind of a fancy thing. First of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence.
It's kind of a fancy thing.
What else would it be if it wasn't 2 letters?
That
Like,
was.
where is the disconnect there? Like AI, that's 2 letters. For those of you that
Yeah.
can't
Why did she feel necessary to make that clarification? Who was sitting there going, "Oh, it is 2 letters"?
tell him it's 2 letters.
That was the Vice President of the United States of America.
Could have been our president, right?
Oh, I know, right? Dangerously close. Yeah, wild. And we've come a long way since that ridiculous statement with AI development and evolution across the country and right here in our area. I don't know if you got a chance to hear the conversation in the 2 o'clock hour, Mike, but I didn't. It was with Sheriff Dave Marshak, the sheriff of Jefferson County. We were talking about some of the issues on the ballot today, and we also he's got very strong opinions on the flock cameras, which is a big part of the AI conversation, or at least AI tools being used in these flock cameras that could be tracking facial recognition or patterns for, people's movements and things like this. And he also talked about body cameras and how that issue, and he's a transparency guy. But he was raising some concerns, and we're going to have him back on soon because we need time. As you know, you can't talk about these issues in 5 minutes. You need time to dig into these really important issues, and we're going to have him back on. But he was talking about, body cameras in many cases are not necessarily just there for law enforcement transparency, which is what I want them to be there for. But, the government can use those the footage from those body cameras for data collection and
I've
some
heard
other
a lot
things.
about the potential for
Yeah,
biocameras. what
yeah,
are
that's
able to do,
some
what they will be able
that's
to do.
some scary stuff. And then also he touched on, there had data centers specifically aren't on the ballot in places across the area today, but there are a lot of candidates that are on the ballot that have made data centers and AI part of their, platform at various levels, whether for or against or whatever it may be. So data centers and AI development and all of this definitely playing a big role in these elections today. I wanted to start with St. Louis, the city of St. Louis, approving a conditional use permit, for a massive $3 billion midtown data center. There's that word. There at the Armory, the famous bar warehouse. I think everybody, that's from St. Louis is aware of that, right along Highway 40 there in Midtown. Big, massive space that's been empty for as long as for decades at this point, by and large, at least. And it looks like there could be, that at least the city took its first steps at maybe using that area for a data center. Can you tell us what we know about this issue and any of the concerns, or or even some of the the pros, the cons and the pros for this
I'll tell you
data
what,
center in the city?
I don't say this often about the city of St. Louis politics, but they have done a lot of things right on this. And I think that this could be looked at as a model for what other communities could do who have concerns. And I'm actually saying this completely seriously as well, because what they've done is they have taken all of the concerns you hear all these communities have about whether, it's drawing down our power grids or our electricity is going to go up, sucking up and getting rid of all of our water. The noise is going to be, a hindrance and pollution. We may have all of these generators out there. We're not going to see the money, all the jobs. And they pretty much went down a checklist and said, okay, those are your concerns. We're going to take care of them. So first, let's talk about the big positives that they have out of this. They estimate about $27 million in the first year just for the city of St. Louis. That's tax revenue. And then another 33 million specifically earmarked for St. Louis public schools. So imagine, 50 million for St. Louis in 1 year. And then over 10 years, they expect it to be somewhere around 400 million if things go the way that they expect. So big positive side there. Now, as far as all the concerns people have, they've also included all of these riders on the permit about making sure that they use closed loop cooling, which means that it's not going to continually be pulling in water. Whatever they bring in from the water has to be recycled and reused. So it's not using water over and over again and just kind of like evaporating it. Also, energy efficiency standards, they have to make sure that they are able to be not causing any more drain on the power grid than already is there. And if so, they have to do something to make up for that, like pay people for it. Also, if they're going to use backup generators, which they need, hospitals need, everyone needs them who's got some kind of critical business, that they have these cleaner generators that aren't just puffing out smoke. And then also they got to do annual reporting on their water and electricity consumption to make sure that they're following the guidelines. And I believe also that if they don't hit their revenue targets, so we don't get the tax money, that there are fines they got to pay as well. I mean, they just went right down the checklist and hit all concerns the way that you and I have been talking. Why don't all these communities just kind of address these things head on?
Yeah. And I agree with you that at least from that standpoint and our early knowledge here of this, we'll see how it progresses. We'll see how they try to screw it up. Maybe not. But it does, as I talked about earlier with Sheriff Marshak, and you and I have talked about this many times, I have all the same concerns that people have about data centers that are anti-data center. I have all the same concerns about the not necessarily the environmental pollution, just the noise pollution and the traffic and the congestion and, putting a data center too close to too close to homes or too close to an already business, commercial area or whatever that's just going to make, complicate things. Those are all bad things, and we need to not do those things. However, I would rather have these data centers going up somewhere in the St. Louis metro area rather than those jobs and those projects and the influence, the responsibility for doing these things right. I'd rather have that local control of those things rather than handing it off to, other states or, God forbid, other countries like China, who would love to be leading the world in AI development. We cannot let that happen. And I know it kind of sounds weird, but, you'd think to yourself, well, then wouldn't a big city be the last place to put something like that if you want to avoid people? Well, there are no people in the city of St. Louis.
I know.
It's a desert. So to bring jobs and a big facility back downtown, and hopefully some of the repercussions of that, of people that are working there and then maybe moving in there and, having something that the city can hang its hat on, or something that's for once developing positively, something that's growing in the city of St. Louis rather than shrinking. I think this is a perfect example. St. Charles City recently voted down a data center. And I thought that was exactly the right thing to do for St. Charles City, because there's not really a good spot for that. And I think that the voters there made the right decision. And I would support that completely, because it's just not the right area. But the city might be. And, and then some of these fringe counties, in rural areas, whatever, may also be the right spot for these. So far, I like it as well.
I do too. I used to work in downtown St. Louis back in the early 90s. We used to work at the Ernst & Young office building that was down there. It was an awesome place to work. Great place to go out to lunch, go grab an afternoon ball game if you could grab it.
Yeah.
Head to Union Station, which was the happening place. There was a place called, I think, Harry's, had a view looking at the ballpark. It was awesome back then. And you go there now, and other than Ballpark Village, it's completely different.
Yeah.
And we need to do something to revitalize it. None of us in the area want to see St. Louis stay the way it is, because it's so vital to the entire community and area.
So on top of these parts of this conversation and parts of the, the influence that data centers are having on our area and on the election day today, I want to dig deeper into the conversation about the flock camera concern and the body camera concern and just the overall status of AI surveillance on people, because there's a Senate panel right now happening on Capitol Hill, Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Counterterrorism today, holding a hearing titled "Your Data, Their Profit," an AI surveillance pricing hearing, and I want to dig into what that means exactly, because when it comes to all of these cameras and monitoring and all of that, I'm all for security cameras. I'm all for, that kind of thing for keeping people safe. But all these cameras, in many cases, are being used for spying and data collection and some things that are not things that I would be supportive of in any way. So I want to dig into that issue and more as we continue with Mike McCleary, our big tech AI expert here on Colombo & Company. Don't forget about Mike's company, Intervine, local family-owned business that makes the best flashlights, lanterns, and headlamps available on the market. They are the best products. We have an AI flashlight, or an Intervine, sorry. You're so attached to AI in my brain. An Intervine flashlight or headlamp in just about every room of our house. So if the power ever goes out, or I need something goes under a counter or something, or we always can grab a light. And even batteries in all different sizes, AA, AAA batteries. You can get all these great products by going to Intervine.com. And if you use my name, Tony, at checkout, you get 25% off everything, from the heavy-duty tech flashlights to AA, AAA batteries, headlamps, lanterns, flashlights, all of it. Intervine is INTERVINE.com. Use my name, Tony, at checkout for 25% off everything at Intervine.com. We continue the conversation with Mike McCleary next here on Colombo & Company.
remember this. I don't even know you.
Travis Wilson here, State Representative of District 106 in St. Charles, Missouri's first state capital. As a 31-year resident of St. Charles County, I know the issues that are important to our residents, such as protecting women's sports, stopping harmful procedures on minors, and fighting the woke agenda. As your representative, I know what it takes to bring new opportunities to our community to ensure our children have a brighter future. It's been the honor of a lifetime for my family and me to represent you, and I humbly ask for your vote again on August 4th.
Paid for by Wilson for St. Charles. Merle Schneider, Treasurer.
The Herzog Tomorrow Foundation provides private school tuition scholarships through Missouri's new Most Scholars program to cover the cost of accessible, high-quality schooling.
Hi, this is Myella Esser with the Herzog Tomorrow Foundation. Our private school tuition scholarships wouldn't be possible without the support of generous Missouri taxpayers. If you're a Missouri taxpayer interested in redirecting your tax dollars and sending them to Missouri students in need of a better education, please contact me at herzogmostscholars.org.
Better education for students creates a better tomorrow for all. Learn how you can help provide a better education for Missouri students at herzogmostscholars.org. That's herzogmostscholars.org. Also, sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. herzogfoundation.com. That's herzogfoundation.com.
Oh, Hank, what a wonderful spider web you have built for us. I love this fabulous space we have right here in the corner of the kitchen.
Thanks, Charlotte. I think I'll build us a vacation web in the coat closet. Oh, no. It's the pest control company again with those green wheels. They always kill the mood.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888. We'd love to help you out. Learn more about our special $67 offer. You can visit us online at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Summer's here, and so is the freshest produce in town. At Anthony's Produce, we specialize in locally grown fruits and vegetables, straight from the farm to your table. Homegrown tomatoes, sweet corn, juicy cantaloupe, watermelon, and peaches, just to name a few. Plus, thousands of locally made products you won't find anywhere else. Need a fruit or vegetable tray for your next gathering? We've got you covered. Anthony's Produce on Jungerman Road or at anthonysproduce.com. Open 7 days a week.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com.
Well, welcome back to Colombo and Company on 1019, 94.1 News Talk STL. Talking to Mike McClary from Intervine and Intervine.com. Again, your place to go for flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, batteries in all different sizes. Intervine.com. And use my name, Tony, at checkout for 25% off all of those great products. Yeah, Mike, this is interesting. Senate panel today examining the impact of AI surveillance on pricing on customers. First of all, what is AI surveillance pricing? What does that even mean, Mike?
Yeah, so what it means is that they're able to identify people who are shopping and in the heat of the moment, change a price accordingly. It could be the lowering of a price if they realize someone who, maybe can't afford to buy something, or someone who's been on the fence about a product. They keep walking by, and then they just end up lowering it by 10%. Then they're like, oh, the price just dropped. I'll grab it now. And the opposite could take place as well. If they see someone who's an impulse buyer, maybe has a higher income, they don't need a discount, they don't really react to discounts, then they won't give them a discount. And so it's all about having the ability to adjust prices per person, which can already happen pretty easily on the internet based on everything they know. And we all get coupons in the email, right? That's probably why most people sign up for any company's mailing list to get coupons. But now the concern is that they can actually do this live in stores like Kroger, which when you hear the stats about Kroger, it'll blow you away, because I never knew anything about Kroger having the capabilities they have right now of a big tech company.
Yeah, and how many Krogers there? Like, we had Krogers in St. Louis when I was a kid, but they're not really around anymore. But they in our area, but it's still a massive grocer across the country. And to your point, this years ago, even this before the AI, stuff really went crazy. I'm talking about 5 years ago, maybe even a little bit more than that. I remember watching a a really well done documentary on YouTube about pricing, online pricing, and probably this is probably the beginning of this type of AI surveillance pricing, where and they got caught doing it. Retailers like Target, they got caught doing this and ended up getting sued and paid the price for it. That if you were at home and you went to the Target website, you may see a product for a different price on sale. But as soon as you got on Target's parking lot and your phone switched to the Target Wi-Fi, you would all of a sudden you'd get into Target and you'd say, wait a minute, I just saw this on your website and it was 20% off. Let me show you. Pull it up on your phone and the price is different. Yeah, the non-sale price, because they were changing the price depending on your location. And once you were in the store, they had you because you're already there. I mean, right? Is that sort of what began this conversation? We only have like 5 minutes, so good luck.
You're going to get me in trouble, by the way. I'm going to apologize to my wife. My wife has been for years taking screenshots of sale items, and I always used to laugh at her. I'm like, why are you taking a freaking screenshot? It's a website. You can visit anytime. She's like, it will change.
Yes, she's right.
And she's right. Just been a lot of times she's had to go back into Target specifically and said, here's the price right here, and it's not that back there. And she's, and God love her, she's saved us money that way. So yes, it has happened. There was also situations where the famous story about Target is they recognized that a young woman was pregnant before she did and gave her a promotion, I believe, on diapers. And they just knew that, hey, she was buying aspirin, she was buying, I don't know what, I don't know all these details, but all these different things that a person who is pregnant but may not realize it by.
The analytics told the computers that she must be pregnant. Yeah. Wow.
Exactly. What a scary story that is. And Kroger, they make over a third of their revenue, I think $1.5 billion in profit off of their AI analytics. A third of their profit, and they're a grocery store.
And here's why these conversations are so important, is because you hear this story about changing the price of something depending on the customer. Like this person may pay more because the stores and the data and the AI have realized that they will pay more, that they're not motivated by sales. But this person, we probably need to charge them less because they are motivated by that sort of stuff. Is really gross and underhanded, but I'm not sure it's illegal. And it feels like it should be. But that's why these conversations are so important, because we've never had to address these issues before. We need to get in front of them. That's why this Senate hearing is important today, even though I don't trust the United States Senate to get anything productive done. But, it's still good that at least they're talking about it. And it's good that we talk about it, because you need to understand these things and get ahead of the issue. Because if these corporations and government can get away with it, data stealing or manipulation with algorithms and things like that, they will do it. And we need to stop
I think that's the key we always talk about. I mean, whether it's illegal or not, we want transparency so we can know, we can adjust, and the market can adjust. If we don't like what a store is doing, we can adjust and go somewhere else, and the market will take care of it.
Is it we only have a couple minutes left here with Mike McClary from Intervine, talking AI, as we do every Tuesday with Mike. Is it a pie-in-the-sky, unrealistic thought to say that cops can have body cameras and we can have, security cameras in certain places for the strict purpose of safety? I'm a big privacy libertarian. Stay out of my house, stay out of my car, stay off my property. But I don't mind, a security camera. I do mind if you're spying on me. I do mind if you're stealing my data. I do mind if you're tracking my movements and all of these things. Is it even possible to have that type of camera, body cameras on cops, and expect there not to be some of that underhanded data collection and things like that? Can we have the best of what that's supposed to be, the transparency of good law enforcement, without the gross data sharing? You have 1 minute to answer that question.
We can, we absolutely can have it. It all comes down to, do we have the will to actually enforce it?
Yeah.
We have so many. We have laws that cover every single possible illegal activity could ever occur. We just choose not to enforce it right now in so many different situations. And this is one of those. We just need to come together, have transparency on what they're doing, decide what we do and don't want them to do, and then have a trusted group. And that's the hard part, who watches over this. And I think it's a combination of commercial, public, and maybe government all together doing oversight of this and making sure that we all know what's going on and we can just see what's happening. Because I do think we can do this. And I'm with you. I want security above everything, but I'm not going to give up all my freedom because of that.
Yeah, amen. Mike McCleary from Intervine and Intervine.com. Great stuff as always, my friend. Great conversation. Look forward to continuing it again very, very soon. In the meantime, have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you again soon.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, awesome stuff there. Mike McCleary from Intervine. And we're about to hand it off to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show. But don't forget, I'll be back here at 7 p.m. along with Vic Porcelli for a live special election coverage up to the minute election results. Keeping an eye on all the important races happening in our area and some of the important races happening around the country. Join us tonight at 7 p.m. for our live election coverage, and keep it here for Tim and Chris next.
I'm Bill Eigel. I'm a no on data centers. Last year, when a new hyperscale data center was up for a vote in St. Charles City, I'm the only candidate for county executive who stood with you.